This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club, be a part of the community, and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsterette.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsterette.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsterette.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsterette.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsterette.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Do I need separate equipment for cider and kombucha, transferring between kegs, and saving bloated pouches of liquid yeast? This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 334. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or even better, call in to 325-305-6107. Get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing, joined as always over there by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com. And you're missing like your mic and your headphones, and what's going on down there, Mr. Todd Burns?
Well, it's a good question. Somebody borrowed them for the Kolsch Cup and didn't bring them back to my office.
No. Okay, here's how I love, and I say love in the opposite way. It's opposite day. Your pettiness knows no bounds because you're punishing the audience at home, because I told you when I left, hey, the box.
I know, I just keep forgetting to get it.
Oh, I thought you were actually being petty and like, no, you will suffer, Josh.
No, I actually set it by the door last night so I'd remember it, and I still forgot it.
Okay.
I made breakfast this morning, so I was more concentrated on
food,
getting all the stuff for breakfast.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. You don't sound terrible, and my editing magic, you're going to sound like we're in the same room together. Don't worry about it. When I come up there, I'm coming up Monday night so that we can rehearse on Tuesday. I'm sure he told you already, James. Our HomebrewCon presentation and all that, you got the copy and all that of like the outline, the script we're going to do. I guess I'll segue into that real quick. I think I have... Yeah, there it is on the screen at 1:30 p.m. on June the 23rd. That's in about a week, my friends. We're giving our presentation at HomebrewCon San Diego, serving your homebrew, all about draft beer systems. I'm excited. Todd, has invested a ton of time making sure we cover all the basics. Todd, would you say, I don't think this is a bad thing, but I think this is a surface level introduction to draft systems, and we're going to have a Q&A that can go even more in depth, and you're open to emails and phone calls and all that for more elaboration from people who just need a little bit more on top of all the content we already have published.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. I'm more excited because when we're done with the talk, we'll only be a few hours away from club night. And we haven't decided. I was just going to wear a Hawaiian shirt if we're not going to do the whole Gilligan's Island theme. I'm still up on for it. James, you could do the professor. Very easy. You don't even got to spend money. We just khaki pants.
I just need a bow tie.
Did he wear a bow tie? See, and Todd's got the. Are we down for Gilligan's Island on club night? Because I am. I've got the shirt.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Well, then that.
Do I have a shirt? Which color shirt did he wear?
Blue. It's just he always wore a flowery Hawaiian shirt.
Did he? I don't know. I thought it was blue.
Oh no, he didn't. He wore a polo.
Yeah. Todd, you did it on one of the episodes where you and I purposely dressed the part. I thought you wore the same kind of shirt he wore.
Yeah, but yours was red. I think mine's blue.
Mine is red. Correct. Yeah. Gilligan's is a red rugby shirt that I spent way too much money on getting. It was so stupid, but worth it for the gag. But
his is blue. I have a shirt like that.
And then what does the professor wear? I thought it was khaki pants.
It's just a blue polo
blue
shirt.
Polo as well. See?
The professor wears a white shirt.
No. James is looking at it right now.
I mean, it's more like a button, like a dress, long sleeve white.
You can wear whatever because we could be the black and white version of the show, and people.
Yeah, it's just a white dress shirt.
There you go.
And khakis.
Yeah, buddy. I like it. Someone did tell me one time when I dressed up like Gilligan, they're like, he was a lot thinner than you, and I blocked that person. I don't need that negativity in my life. Anyways. HomebrewCon.
I'm good though.
Yeah,
he was fat.
Oh yeah, you've got your part nailed. Todd has been method acting as the skipper for 55 years. Anyway, so yes, come join us at HomebrewCon. We are also going to be helping run. What are they calling it? Social Saturday. Saturday is like there's no talks, just the trade show floor open, and every booth is going to kind of be social. So we're going to be, having fun over at the Muntins booth on Saturday. We're going to be serving beer, and I think our beer is going to be served at their booth the entire show. I don't know the firm details, but I know our draft systems are going to be used at their booth for the whole show. So we'll be there either serving our beer every day or serving other people's beer and consuming plenty of beer. For the social day, Todd, I don't know if you remember me thinking about doing a wrestle Josh, and if you could tap me in a 5-minute round, you get $100. Do you think that idea is still worth pursuing, or is that?
Yeah, you said it was a big jiu-jitsu area, right?
San Diego is a very big jiu-jitsu area.
If anybody in San Diego, if you know a really good jiu-jitsu guy, I would be willing to hire him for a cameo. Pay for a day.
Never mind. No, stop it. No, well, I'm killing that idea. No, and it's funny because the
best guy there. I want the best guy there.
That's the awful part is between Austin and San Diego, those are the best guys are in those two towns. So yeah, you would absolutely be able to find some of the best. Yeah, Andre.
I want an absolute ass whooping. That's what I want.
That I'm going to edit this out.
You can't do that with your neck though, dude.
No, I know that. Well, that's why. Yeah, no, I'm not. No, I can train. I'm not going to do that. I did hurt my neck again recently, so my whole plan, all my bid talk of I'm going to wake up early and go to a morning class at one of the world class gyms and say, no, I'll probably be nursing a hangover and maybe go to the fitness center at the hotel and walk while I cry slightly. I don't know. I'm also right now kind of abusing Tylenol, so I gotta find the balance for my liver between Tylenol, acetaminophen intake, and alcohol intake. Todd, you always told me that was a myth, but drinking on acetaminophen, yeah, I'll be fine. Anyways, real quick, I won't go too in depth. On the screen there, the little landing page for our Kolsch Cup. Guys, if you missed it, you can go to youtube.com, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Click on the live section. For some reason, it doesn't put our live videos in the same feed as published videos. I'm not sure why or what I'm doing wrong, but Kolsch Cup has concluded. We did award the grand champion. We awarded a silver medalist and a bronze medalist, and the discrepancy in scores between the top three was very little. It was very tight. Very little. We were spoiled this year with incredibly good Kolsch. I'd argue, James, the best Kolsch Cup to date.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had a lot of good things to say about what y'all were tasted on day one. Same with me and Wes. Our buddy Wes from Teddy's Brew House joined us as a guest judge. Like I said, I'm not going to suggest everyone goes and watches the full 2 hours or however long each video is, but on the screen, I did put what we were judging at each table, and then on the finals, collectively what we were judging. So you can scrub through. If you haven't watched it already and you are an entrant, you can go find the parts that we were talking about yours and judging you and giving you critical feedback. Or just wait till next week, because I'm going to ship them out. I'm going to ship out the scorecards and T-shirts and stuff like that. So it's going to be those will go out soon. So yeah, Kolsch Cup recap, homebrew con stuff. Oh, and then the last bit of small talk, unless y'all have something to add. Members of our Trub Club this month, join it now at a recipe receiving tier and get the delicious Belma American Pale Ale, brought to you by our lovely sponsors at Munton's Malt, Hopsterat.com, and of course, premium liquid yeast from our friends at Imperial Yeast. This is a great recipe. Todd, have you been drawn from that fermenter a lot? Has it been kegged yet? I forget if you've I
tried it last night. The Belma, yeah, I tried it last night. It was good. It's still clarifying. So I'm kind of torn what to do at this point, I'm almost tempted to put it in secondaries and let it clarify more. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to figure it out.
Interesting. You just want, I mean, is it characteristic of an APA brightness? Is that what, I mean, you want it to be as bright as possible? Obviously it's not a hazy. I mean, I know, but.
Yeah, it's not a hazy, so I want it to be bright. Yeah, it's not bright.
Is there such thing as an hazy APA? Is that a style?
There may be.
James, you.
Well, I mean, that's what we could call it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're just going to change it up for homebrew. Look, I'm terrified that the Kolsch that I've got fermenting is not going to be good. And not only that it's not going to be clear because I blew it off to the last minute. There were some things I blew off to the last minute this trade show. We don't have to go into details, though, Todd. I'll need to mute your mic before you go into details.
Oh, by the way, while we're talking about
last
the
minute
trade show, what is the thing we're going to give our like people that are there that watch the show and everything? What kind of giveaway did we figure out?
No, we didn't. We were doing Kolsch Cup stuff. We didn't decide on a thing we're going to give.
We still probably might have time though, right?
What would you like to take with us? I mean, we were taking beer.
We talked about taking some shirts.
The only shirt talk we've had recently was Kolsch Cup stuff. I didn't.
That wasn't recently.
Oh gosh, whatever.
Doing a shirt, like doing some kind of. I mean, we can still have time to do that with your. Didn't your guy do it locally?
Yeah, but it was a 2. Yeah, but they're a 2-week turnaround.
Huh.
Yeah, you could call Marty over there and see what his turnaround is.
Yeah,
and we decide. But what's the print? What's the run? What's the?
I remember what we did
sizes?
Several years ago when we actually went to HomebrewCon instead of it being. We had people
sign up,
basically sign up to get a shirt, and then they wore the shirts during the show.
Yeah, no, I remember that, but with that, we did have a sign up and all that. Yeah. This year, though, we're not showing. We're not at. I mean, we don't have a designated time of where we're going to be and when we're going to be. Kind of figure out besides the talk, but we didn't try to figure that out after we're done recording.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Well, sir, I thought the whole thing was we're bringing our beer, and that was the big thing for people there is drink. But like you said, I mean, I'm not opposed to trying some, but it would be extremely last minute. And which is
how about a button? Do you have a button maker?
I could find a button maker.
we could do a button maker. You can make the buttons for us. This is going well.
Oh, this is going great. Anyways, go to page.
Do a button maker while you're blabbing on about.
Yeah, you look at that. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier of the Trub Club and get this delicious kit sent straight to your home. again, that is probably the most affordable way for you guys to enjoy premium recipe kits curated by the guys on screen here, Todd and James. Every now and then I get some input, but my input is, that's delicious. So I do believe that is all the small talk while Todd's still doodling for button makers. It's time
you want the button
for
maker to go to your house,
feedback. The listener feedback's not about buttons yet. It is actually a voicemail from our buddy Matt from Utah with some feedback about brewing in a basement with steam.
Hey, Josh, Todd, and James. This is Matt from Utah. Hey, I was just calling about Rob's question about steam in brewing in a basement. I've been brewing in my basement for years, and getting a steam condenser lid was a game changer. The steam is out of control in my little basement, but with the steam condensing lid, it has made it so much easier to brew without having to worry about any steam damage to my ceiling or my walls. I appreciate everything you guys do. I love the podcast, and you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.
Great feedback. It was something after when I got that, I thought, oh, how did we not think of that? Because, a lot of manufacturers are now making steam condensers for boil kettles. Like, it's become very common, and a lot of them are universal to just, kettle sizes. Oh, I need one for my 20-gallon kettle or my 15. But that is something. With that being said, and knowing that we could get those, is that something y'all think would be beneficial to y'all's personal setups, or you're fine with how it's managed right now in the brew room and at the barn?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it hasn't been a problem, right? Just relax, don't worry.
It's funny when you were talking about the feedback, you said brewing with steam. I thought he was going to talk about a steam-powered brew kettle. I was really interested in that.
That would actually been way more entertaining too, right? It would have been like, whoa!
I'm very disappointed it wasn't a steam-powered. Because people use steam for everything in big cities. We're not used to that, but yeah.
In modern days, still steam is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there are a lot of buildings are heated with steam, and they have like steam system in the city, just like water or electricity.
No way. No, you're right. I'm not used to that.
And there's some breweries that use boilers too.
That's incredible. No, I had no idea. Like you said, that now is that like established city thing? Like, because I can't imagine. Like, is it Austin or San Antonio or Dallas? People are utilizing it. Like I said, I thought.
No, I think it's more up north. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. Now we're gonna get a lot of feedback from all that, which does remind me, guys. Google Voice. I love it ultimately because it's free and all that. It's way too easy though for me. I might have been trying to download files while we were drinking at the Ranch Friday, and again, I thought I was archiving stuff, and I ended up deleting a whole thing of stuff that wasn't downloaded. So I only have a handful of voicemails left that aren't feedback. If you have questions, now's a good time. It's probably to get on the show so we could get another date, some bankroll of voicemail questions to 325-305-6107. And feedback or question we take on the show. A reminder, you do get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. If you text that same line or use the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, you still get a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty good. Like our buddy Rick from Florida who texted us, and he wrote, "You've said you would use separate equipment for sours and non-sours. So my question is, would you use separate equipment for ciders and other types of alcoholic drinks? I'd love to try ciders and even kombucha, but the thought of buying equipment only for those brews doesn't appeal to me. If I sanitize my equipment real good, then what's the problem? Thanks, Josh." It's a good question. Like we've said before, James, if you were doing sours, which just the thought of that makes me laugh. But if in bizarro world where James loves hazy sours, are you admit, like, I'd use separate equipment. I'm not going to want to introduce that lacto or whatever on purpose in the same thing, in the same fermentation vessel as I'm going to do my German beers, my Pilsners or whatever. Ciders and kombucha, I can speak on the kombucha part. I know y'all have never made cider, or Todd's the only one who's made cider. But do you think you would compartmentalize every kind of beverage if you were into making things other than beer? Would that just logically make sense to you, or is good sanitation all you really need to worry about?
I think good sanitation would fix it. But I've never done a cider, and I've brewed sours accidentally, but I didn't mean to do that. I don't have a reference. I've never done kombucha, never done cider, so I don't know what can possibly be left residual wise in the equipment. I think that if you're really good at sanitation, keep everything nice and clean and scrubbed, I think it'd be all right. But Todd, you probably have more insight on this question than I do.
Not really. I mean, if you sanitize it, it should be fine. I think I've never brewed a sour. But I know people do keep that separate because it is easy to infect other beers, or that's my understanding. Since I've never done it, I shouldn't say that with authority. But
I'll say
I don't know why it would matter with other things like kombucha. Why would it matter, Josh? You brew kombucha.
I do, and what I was going to say, two things. One, off the top of my head, when you were talking about the cider compared to sours, sour strains are a whole different. I don't think cider strains are gonna as sour specific. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'd mind introducing that. But where I was really originally gonna go with it is, Todd, you made you made a cider before off of a kit. I don't recall it recommended glass or stainless for the fermentation process. I don't remember you using a plastic bucket. Where I would suggest, same with kombucha, I wouldn't use a plastic bucket that I'd share with beer, because those surfaces.
Yeah, I used a plastic bucket.
Oh, and you did on that cider, and you've reused that bucket since for beer.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you have a gazillion buckets. That's hard to ask you to keep up with all your buckets. You really do. You're a formidable fortress of buckets in your garage, but or your workshop area. But no, what I was saying is,
I never gave it a second thought.
Yeah, right. And you probably wouldn't unless you came across a batch that tasted particularly bad and maybe troubleshoot it from there. But I do believe buckets, the surface are more porous in regards to, they scratch easier. And so infection might be easier to get on that, as opposed to like a glass or stainless fermentation vessel, which is why I think cider makers typically use those for the sake of easier sanitation. I might be making stuff up. People who listen, I've had cider specialists on the show, and you'd think I remember stuff, but I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. Or last night. I eat breakfast at whatever time I want. But with kombucha, I can speak to that. If my office wasn't a wreck, I'd show y'all the big 5-gallon batch I've got going right now. I always do that in glass, and I keep it separate, mostly for the sake of, I treat kombucha like I treat a sour. The culture, the yeast that it's making, I wouldn't want any of that to potentially be left behind and end up in a beer. And that's just me being able to have a wide mouth bubbler is what I'm using, a wide mouth glass carboy. And I think I paid $50 for it. So like, I know like Rick's question is really like, do I got to use different brewing equipment? And the answer to that one should be no. Like your stainless steel, kombucha, you're making tea in a kettle. The fermentation is all separate from that. So you can clean out and sanitize your kettle from black tea or sweetened tea all day. You're not going to have issues with like, oh no, residual sugar got into a scratch. Like, no, the fermentation part is the only thing I think you'd have to, quote unquote, invest in additional equipment. And for ciders and kombucha, you don't need big old conicals and expensive fermentation stuff. You can get by with whatever size batch you're going to do glass carboys and whatever those go for. So I think to wrap up Britt's question, I would say that it's probably worth having separate fermentation vessels, but you don't got to break the bank. And on your brewing side, cider, you don't even get to a boil. Right? Like I've never made cider, and Todd, yours was from a kit. I don't remember. I was there when you packaged it. I wasn't there.
It's just like making, it's kind of like making, well, I should say just like making, it's kind of like making wine. Yeah. You don't boil or do any of that.
It's very straightforward, right? So I can't,
I mean, it is, maybe you could argue it is a wine. Is it a wine? I mean, it's juice and you ferment it. What's the difference between cider and wine? Is just the strength, right? So I don't know.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yeah, there you go. That's my question.
That answer my question. Anyways, I love starting with the question where we're like, yeah, we don't really know. So if you have feedback, send it to 325-305-6107. If you're at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, leave it in the comments below. Smash that like button. What else am I supposed to say? All the things to help grow the channel and get us into the algorithm and all that stuff. But anyways, Rick, thank you so much for submitting that question. A second question for this show is a voicemail. It's our buddy Nate from Oregon.
Hey guys, it's Nate from Oregon, and I have some questions about how to transfer between two corny kegs. So right now I have an extra keg that I plan to ferment in and do a closed transfer into a serving keg. My fermenting keg already has the floating dip tube and all that set up. My question is, how do I transfer from my fermenting keg into my serving keg safely? Can I do this after the beer is carbonated? And then my third question, all in one, unfortunately, is when would I dry hop in this situation? Would it be better to dry hop in the primary before transferring over to the serving keg? Should I transfer it on top of the dry hop? I have a mesh screen tube thing I've been using. Anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing back from you guys. I appreciate you all. Keep up the good work. Bye.
It's a great question, and this is kind of part of what Todd I had suggested we cover the surface level in our presentation, just of how when you move from bottling and get into kegging at all, it opens up a wide variety of possibilities from fermentation to serving. It's not just, oh, these kegs are only for serving. A lot of our listeners, a lot of people who homebrew, use a keg with a floating dip tube and they ferment, they do their whole primary in there. And some people don't even, like Nate's like us, where he probably appreciates a clear beer and doesn't want that pour of sediment or whatever ever, right? He wants it to be clear from start to finish. And so going from keg to keg, I imagine, I'm going to throw it to you first, James, because you filter. And I know this is kind of different than that, or not kind of, it is different from that, but it's kind of similar in that you're going from one vessel to another. You don't want to oxidize it oxidize it. And you don't want splashing. And you also are trying to eliminate the possibility of bringing over trub and all that junk. So what would you suggest going from a keg with a floating dip tube into another keg that will ultimately be the serving vessel?
I would do after primary for a high krausen. Once that's over, the bulk of the fermentation is over on the primary. That's where I always dry hop. And then when you move it over, he's got a floating dip tube. He can just move it over into the serving keg when it's done. I tend to dry hop for 5 days. So after high krausen, because the rule, not a rule, but a lot of people believe that if you try to dry hop during primary fermentation, you can scrub some of the aromas. The CO2 can scrub some of the aromas off the hops themselves. It'll go into the air through the airlock. So that's why I always wait till primary fermentation for the most part's done, and then I'll dry hop it and then transfer it into a keg.
And then, like you're saying, at that point, you wouldn't carbonate it until it's in the serving vessel and it's ready to go. Like everything's been done for that batch, and you just want to get it carbonated and served.
Yeah. I mean, you can close it up and use a splunding valve. But dry hopping, I just never have. Well, I'm going to find out, because actually I dry hop those beers for Muntins. And we did that after primary fermentation was done. And it's still in the primary right now. I'll keg it tomorrow. So, yeah, try it out. I think you'll be all right.
Todd,
doing it that way.
With the transferring part, I think it's probably good to reiterate that he's coming out of the floating dip tube, obviously. How much line do you recommend that he have? Does it matter the diameter of the tubing? And also, he wants to make sure to go into the liquid outpost of the serving keg to make sure that there's no splashing, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I would do first and foremost is whatever line you use, I would get clear line. so you can see, and then I would just have it come out of the long dip tube, which would be out, and then I would have it go in to the out dip tube on the other keg, because you want it to go to the bottom of the keg. You don't want it to fall from the top. Obviously, I mean, you want to purge the keg first of its CO2. So what I do on that is I hook up my CO2 with a liquid disconnect and run CO2 to the bottom and purge the top of the lid and make sure you're full of CO2. Close that off. Make sure there's no pressure on it because you don't want to shoot stuff backwards. And then transfer from that primary into your serving keg. And you want to watch that clear hose. And when you start seeing a rush of yeast, you pull it off as quickly as you can so that you just get a little bit in there. Let that sit and clarify for a while. And then the first beer you're going to probably pull that out in the very first few ounces, whatever that is, 10 ounces or whatever it is. And because it's going to fall to the very bottom of the keg, and then you should have pretty clear beer.
And I know none of us are using floating dip tubes in the keg. Our fermentation vessels, or mine have them, using, the all-rounder, and I also have that Fermenter King from Anvil. But I
have a floating dip tube in one of my kegs.
Oh, do you really? And I didn't.
Yeah, I use it for water, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you had a floating dip tube in the Topo Chico keg.
Well, I have two kegs. One of them is set up with a long, with a carbonator on the bottom, and then I have the other one.
Right, I knew about the carbonation stone one. Yeah. Which, by the way, digressing. Here's my quota of digressing for the day. Your Topo Chico keg is the closest clone of Topo Chico you've ever made. It was.
Thank you.
Spot
I got
on.
it down now. I figured out how to do it.
You really.
So what you do is what I do now is I warm up some water and I stir those minerals in really, really, really good. Pour that in the keg, then pour the rest of the water in. And then when I force carbonate it, I move it around a lot, and I'm getting it to totally dissolve. Because the first time we tried it, we basically just sucked up all the minerals from the bottom because they all fell to the bottom. But now they're mixing in, and I'm getting crystal clear pour from the very first glass, and it tastes like Topo Chico.
It really, it's damn near the real thing. Like if we did a blind taste test, I don't think most people could tell whose was whose. I think I told you
that's all I've been doing at home. So every keg I serve now is actually that clone. So I really like it.
Yeah, it's super good. But anyways, back to Nate's question. That was my digression quota for the week. Here's a hypothetical, James. What if I'm a guy and I just replaced all my liquid dip tubes with floating dip tubes because, by golly, I don't want to draw from the bottom until I absolutely have to. There shouldn't be a problem transferring from one keg's liquid out with the floating dip tube into another keg's liquid out floating dip tube, right? Like it's going to always just be with the volume that's filling in the keg. So it should never create any kind of splash, correct?
Right. I just normally, if I'll use the floating dip tube for primary, if you're going to ferment into the keg and you want to serve out of the keg. But once that's done, I move the liquid through the liquid side, from the primary to the secondary keg. I don't know if I would be so concerned about a floating dip tube in the serving keg, because it's already been in the primary. So I just,
that's a good point.
Help keep oxidizing the beer, just pump it through the liquid side. So it's dip tubes at the very bottom of the keg. You fill it up from the bottom to the top. Through that, you're less likely to oxidize it.
Right.
Maybe I misunderstood. Was he using a floating dip tube in both kegs?
No. I was adding. I was dragging out a question again.
Okay. I thought maybe I misunderstood because I was talking about letting it pull it out the bottom and all that, and that wouldn't work.
No. It's funny because I've been getting feedback now through comments on our Instagram or emails to me about how, Josh, I know ever since you've mentioned it or Todd mentioned it, you do drag out questions. And it's funny because when we were doing the notes, you wrote a script based on an outline you and I worked on together and a PowerPoint presentation that I've been doing. And I think after rereading, I wrote you a novel of feedback, right? About like on this section, I was dragging everything out. Did you notice that in my notes? I was just I was just dragging everything out. I don't know where that comes from. I should be content with just this is the answer, let it go. But I drag it out. So let me not.
I think what we should do on the podcast, we should have an alternative or an additional question that we can use if we answer the first three questions too quickly, so you don't have the anxiety about it not going far enough.
That's, okay, armchair therapist over there nailing it. How dare you? But yeah, you're probably right. We should do that. We have the just in case, because right now we're at like 35 minutes. But and so I'm gonna just keep stammering along.
Yeah, we're done with this question.
Let me recap the question. Let me recap it because I'm gonna timestamp this recap. Yeah. Let me recap it. So we're all on board with the primary getting everything done, including the dry hopping, but transfer to your serving keg and then do the forced carbonation and enjoy your beer. I think that's what we all agree on. I won't drag it out anymore. Nate, thank you so much for submitting that question. The final reminder, if and when you leave us a voicemail to 325-305-6107, you get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. If you don't believe me, all these people, they'll comment on the Instagram photos and tell you, I'm giving away Todd's money like it's hotcakes, baby. It's just going out left, right. Todd will confirm that too. I'm giving it out. Or if you text that same number or go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, you still get a $15 gift card. And those people will tell you too, I was too scared to leave a voicemail, but he still gave me $15. It's a win-win-win. Thank you, Nate, for submitting that. Our third and final question of this episode is from our buddy Darren, who did use the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Darren wrote, Hello, Joshua, James, and Todd. First, a little feedback. I have been in the 5-gallon recipe kit per month club for 3 months now and wanted to tell you how much I've enjoyed every kit. Every kit has finished exactly how the style should taste, and it has been a lot of fun being in this homebrew club. I'd never used liquid yeast before, and you guys are right. Imperial yeast is incredible. They are incredible. We're not liars. This brings me to my question. After my second kit from Trub Club, I decided to order ingredients for a lager batch along with a pouch of Harvest based on James' recommendation. I won't name the company, but it was once owned by Anheuser-Busch. It's actually AB InBev. But with that being said, they did ship out the yeast with an ice pack, but when I received the package, the pouch was on the brink of explosion and the ice pack was not cold. When I emailed about getting another pouch, they suggested that I only use dry yeast in the summer because they won't guarantee that liquid yeast will arrive good. How do I know if my original pouch is viable? Would you use it, or should I mix some dry yeast with my lager batch when I brew? Lastly, how do you keep the yeast from exploding during summer months inside of Trub Club kits? Thank you for helping me with my recent order, and thank you for always being accessible when I need help. You guys have made a customer for life. Take care, D. Wonderful feedback, first off, by the way. And the reason the kits taste so good is because James and Todd know what they're doing. I would love to take credit, but James follows the book to a T on a style, and and Todd just brews a crap ton until it turns out good, and then he's happy, and then we make that a recipe. So it's a win-win in my book. Moving to the viability, let's start there, James. We're no strangers, and I want to give a spoiler alert to Darren as we're going into the hot summer months. Sometimes our pouches are going to arrive very bloated too. We can't, I always try to ship out on a Monday, if at all possible, the last Monday of the month, to try to give that yeast the best chance of arriving at everyone's house in the shortest transit time. I know FedEx does deliver weekends, but not to rural areas. So if I ship it like on a Thursday and it's going to like rural Illinois, it might not get there till Monday or Tuesday, and it sits in a hot truck over the weekend or a hot warehouse or whatever. And that doesn't give the yeast pouch a chance. We always wrap it in ice as well. And so we're doing our part of as best as we can, but sometimes it arrives bloated. James, you're in Trub Club. You did a bloated pouch. What's your first step to determining viability of that pack of yeast?
Oh, I'll make a starter.
Boom. I want to drag it out, though. What is a starter, James?
Well, what you do basically is you make a little mini wort. Basically, you take some. I use dry malt extracts. It's always handy to have in your freezer. You can keep it in the freezer. It'll keep for a good long while. And then you just mix a little dry malt extract with some water. Boil it on the stove. Cool it down, and then add the yeast to that. And just look for activity. Sometimes you can even just put it in some sanitized water. And you can try that, but dry malt extract or liquid malt extract with some water, boil it on the stove, cool it down, just like you're doing a little mini batch of beer, and then add that pouch of yeast in there, and just wait for activity. Put an airlock on it. If it starts bubbling, you're good.
Yep, and then you literally just use that when it's time to pitch yeast on your brew day.
Yeah, and if it's a lager and you're not doing closed fermentation, you need pretty good numbers. So it's probably not a bad idea to do a starter for all lagers that have normal fermentation. That's not pressure fermentation. And there's lots of calculators online that can tell you can punch in the gravity and the size batch, and it'll tell you exactly how big a starter you need to make.
Yeah. And we have been spoiled when you get in an ideal situation, that pack of Imperial, and it's not, on the brink of explosion and all that. They pack it with 200 billion cells of yeast. So even the lager pouches, when I have a fresh cable car and he's doing a California Common, I see you use one pouch basically for 5 gallons, and you don't have to make a starter when it's fresh and in good health. But like you said, it's been common practice for homebrewers making lager to make a starter every time, because you need that much more yeast because it's at lower temps. It takes a little bit longer to ferment and all that. With that being said, Todd, I promise I'm not just dragging it out, but I want you to be a part of the question too. You are also spoiled like me, where I don't recall a time where you've ever had to have expanding pouches of yeast, but sometimes the yeast upstairs is getting dated or whatever. And you're like, oh, I'll use that before getting the fresh yeast. Do you treat dated yeast the same way you would treat a bloated pouch of yeast?
I would be more scared of old yeast than I would really fresh yeast that's bloated. Just based purely on anecdotal experience, I guess. I mean, I've definitely had problems. I've tried to use old yeast and it's perfectly flat, and I'm like, that's fine. It may be a little out of date, but it's fine, and did not get good results. I've used pretty big bloated packets of fresh yeast, and it worked fine. And that's one great thing about the Trub Club is our yeast is extremely fresh, because we get it about a week before and we send it out. And when a lot of times when you get yeast, it might be 2 or 3 months old already. And I mean that's my experience.
Yeah.
So
no, and like you said, we are terribly spoiled when all the ingredients in our kit are as fresh. I will say more fresh than probably the average place shipping out recipe kits, just because our vendors take that good care of us. Where Hops Direct, we tell them on a Monday, oh, we need this, and we're gonna ship kits out next week. We got it by that following Friday, and they're giving us fresh stuff that's just been packed. And like you said, with the yeast, Todd, it's incredible. Where today is June the 8th, and so I put in our order, and the pouch would say oh yeah, it's packaged on June 3rd or whatever, when we get it on the 15th of June. It's just incredible, because some homebrew supply shops, us included, sometimes you get a month out or whatever, which again most of the time is not a big deal. But there I go dragging out or digressing too much. Let's wrap this up, so I'm not just king of dragging it out. And I don't know if y'all can hear, there's some hellacious storm blowing through my neighborhood right now. So
no, we couldn't hear it.
Okay, good. My
So are you wrapping up the question or the show?
Both. It's the last question of the show.
When you're finished wrapping up the question, I wanted to mention something.
Nate, we have wrapped up your question. Todd, what do you want to mention?
So I was questioning myself, and so I Googled it, and the consensus is that cider is a wine.
No way.
Yeah.
What about a hot dog?
It's taxed by the government as a wine, And most people would, they say, well, it's fermented fruit juice. Ultimately it's a wine.
And the government knows everything. Yeah.
Well, but also just people with cider sites are saying it's a wine. So it is a wine.
Interesting. Is that like
boy, are we going to get a lot of comments about that statement.
Yeah. Well, isn't hard seltzer in Texas also considered what am I thinking of? Like something that I remember seeing as being considered a malted beverage. I was like, why is that in the malted beverage section?
Well, if it's fruit juice, it's wine. If it's grains, it's malted.
Right. What grains?
Well, you know what Ned Flanders says? Says if it's clear and yellow, you've got juice there, fella. If it's tangy and brown, you're in cider town.
No, I love that.
The whole time he's got that apple on his head.
Yeah. Tangy and yellow.
I'm a Simpsons nerd.
You got juice there.
Sorry, guys.
I love that. No, that's anytime you want to sneak in a Simpsons reference, I'm here for it, dude. We should get some good feedback on ciders and all that. And if y'all know if a hot dog's a sandwich, let me know. Joshua at homebrewhappyhour.com. It's there to keep me up at night. Anyway.
I mean, it's a piece of bread. It's a piece of meat with two pieces of bread on each side.
Got to be a sandwich.
A sandwich.
Yeah, it's got to be a sandwich. I agree. Anyway.
Or a hot dog. One of the two.
Darren, thank you so much for submitting your question. Guys, that's all I've got for this week. I appreciate y'all's time. It's hectic, I know, up there. And it's between all like our real jobs and getting ready for HomebrewCon, I'm excited. I'll be there next week, so I will catch you guys then.
Thank you.
See ya.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page where you can call, leave us a voicemail, and be Todd's best friend at 325-305-6107. Hey, thank you to our show sponsors like Munton's Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Munton's Malt, give them a try exclusively through our Trub Club at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of Imperial Yeast along with premium recipes again when you join our Trub Club. So go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.